Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup runneth over, and surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. And I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever and ever. Amen. Assalamu alaikum. It's Monday. Welcome to Johnny's Bite. I want to say thank you to Grandpa Clothing in Dansoman for my outfit. I was surprised that the Speaker of Parliament, Right Honorable Bagbin, and other ministers, I've seen them rock the Grandpa thing. It tells you that if you advertise with Johnny Hughes on 3FM 92.7 on the Sunrise Morning Show, the dividends are there. So call them 020-985-5696. That's 020-985-5696. Now, this morning, there's something on my mind regarding this whole ECOWAS intention to get into Niger and to show power and muscle and asking a certain standby force to get ready. Can somebody please tell ECOWAS to stop the joke already? Can somebody please tell ECOWAS to stop the joke already? Because what's happening in Niger is as a result of bad governance, bad leadership, the economic stress. ECOWAS is an acronym, an abbreviation. Economic Communities of West African States. Economic Communities of West African States. Check all the countries in West Africa. Check the strength of their economies. Check their GDPs. Check their inflation rate. Check how their people are living. Check how their masses are suffering. And tell me whether or not the economic portion, which is the fundamental reason for which ECOWAS was set up, has been thought about by any of these leaders who have not thought about fixing the ailing economies that they have pushed their people into, but rather they want to go and sit and think about war. Africa is losing it. Number two, check the ages of the presidents who will be sitting in that room to take that decision to go to war. Check their ages. They have all spent their lives. And even before we try to think about how to recover from the economic doldrum in which they have sunk us into, the deep pit that they have sunk us into, they have not thought about what the future holds after they have gone into this war, which will affect, because Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali say we will come together to resist your attempts. They have not thought about the overflow. They are not thinking about the hunger that will come. Already the price of onions in Ghana has gone up, and we know why. So we need to tell them in their faces that, look, you have already failed us. We are still tolerating you because it's a democracy. Don't come and add insult to injury. Stop the jokes. Somebody tell ECOWAS, stop the jokes. Your first job and the first reason for coming together as countries within the West African sub-region is the economic communities of West African states. How do you leave the economic and go and focus on war? Somebody tell ECOWAS to stop the joke if nobody has told them already. Now, a senior citizen yesterday had a conversation with me and says, these days, I see very little of a paid information minister, because there's been Jato and the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources and some acres of land that he was giving. You remember that what Honorable Suhini brought? There's also Kujeto Ablakwa and Honorable Eslawoswe Kufu, some contract issues. There's the Saglemi housing projects. There's the dams that we saw that have been dried up and how we are not producing much and all of that. Somebody's asking, where's our information minister? Please put this picture up there. He's the member of parliament. Then he asked me, maybe he's too busy following our vice president around, so he may not be focusing on his primary job. I said, no, I disagree with you, because Kojo is focused on his job. So the president is not speaking to us, but at least can the principal mouthpiece of the government, put this picture up there, please. The principal mouthpiece of the government, can he speak to the people of Ghana? And you see, there's a very beautiful picture of Bishop Nkrumah. He's also MP for Fasia Yorubi. He's going again. So I'm Minister for Information. And the question that the citizens are asking, this is one of the senior citizens of this country, and I have a lot of them as my friends. They ask, where is the information minister? Because, you know, in the past, When we had issues, Cecilia Dapa issue, we had the Bank of Ghana issue, you know, IMF and all of that, Mr. Nkrumah would have come to give us some clarification like this. Listen.
The fact that people haven't been allowed to go back coming up with these reports does not mean that the entire exercise has been a failure. It is a challenge that needs to be dealt with at this point in time. But the president, like he said from the beginning, remains very committed to the fight against irresponsible and illegal mining. The processes over the years have been largely successful. We have a current set of challenges. You can't run away from the current set of challenges. You've got to face it head on and find a way to win in that space as well.
So that was Mr. Paul Nkrumah. And I remember at that press conference, somebody had asked a question, one of the journalists had asked a question and said that, oh, the Galamsey fight had failed. And he clarified what was it. Now I don't know what the position will be on the Galamsey fight at all and whatever it is, as to whether we have failed or we have not failed. We all know what the story is. And I leave it there. Now, Sam Okudzeto Blackwire and Associates, they are the legal representatives of Madame Cecilia Dapa. And they have had cause to write on the 11th of August 2023, written to Multimedia Group, and they are asking for a retraction and an apology. Now, there are 3 pages in the document. They have detailed the different times at which the broadcasts were made, and they have also spoken about the OSP's rebuttal of what comments were made and that it didn't come from the OSP and all of that. They have said that, well, in spite of the rebuttal, they still went ahead and published at different times. Let's see what they are asking Multimedia to do. That's on page 3 of the document. Page 3 of the document, right? Page 3 of the document that was published. Now, let's see this particular one. And the third portion of the document that had come, third portion of the document that had come, well, this is the second portion. Play me the third document. Show me the third document. All right? So we are by this letter demanding that your outfit retracts the false information it has published and apologizes to our client within 3 days from the delivery of this letter, using the same means and coverage with which it was published. The false information, failing which we have our client's firm instruction to institute legal action and bring the full force of the law to bear on your outfit for the damage, etc., etc. So, rightfully so, they have the right to write this letter to Multimedia and to whoever had made the publication. And in writing this letter, they are also demanding that we are by this letter demanding that outfit retracts the false information published and apologize to our client within 3 days from the delivery of this letter using the same names and means with which it was published, the false information, failing which we have our client's firm instruction to institute legal action and bring the full force of the law to bear on your outfit for the damage and injury your reportage has caused and keeps causing. You are accordingly advised. Yours faithfully, Victoria Bath. And that's copied to Madame Cecilia Dapa. So they have the right to write this letter. And they have a right to also ask Multimedia. And if Multimedia is certain that what they published out there is correct. And they are not alone. I mean, Madame Cecilia Dapa owns her right. So if Multimedia is sure that what they published out there, they have no reason to apologize. Just as was in the Al Jazeera gold mafia thing. You remember that the presidency had written a similar letter asking Al Jazeera to retract and apologize within a certain 7-day period. If not, they would take legal action and all of that. Well, Al Jazeera wrote, because we wrote to Al Jazeera, and they said, oh, we have already written to your government that we will not retract and apologize because we have not done any of what they're saying. The presidency is keeping that information. Mr. Paul Nkrumah knows about that information, but that information is not in the public domain. So if Multimedia knows that they have done nothing wrong, they may not respond, and they will dare whoever is writing and say that, look, please, we have had enough of this one. We will retract. Do your worst. And that's what Al Jazeera did to our government. Our government still is holding that gold mafia thing and all of that. But my senior colleague, Paula Domotre, has been explaining to us some things. Listen to him.
So I think now we get who we are dealing with. These are the people we are dealing with. Maabna is Patience Botwe, house help, number 1. Sarah Ajay, 18-year-old, house help, number 2. Benjamin Soa, Patience Botwe, Maabna's current boyfriend. Kweku Botwe, Maabna's father. And Dauda, Maabna's ex-boyfriend. Now, one more thing to tell you before you go on. It's in the document. But Cecilia Dapa also told me this. Now, Patience Botwe is unknown to Cecilia Dapa and her husband. They don't know her. They know Dauda, who works for Cecilia Dapa's husband. Dauda comes to them one day and says that my mother and my father have a problem. What is the problem? I have gone into a woman who is at JSS and she says she's pregnant. She's called Patience Butchie. This is the problem I have. And they say, hey, she's pregnant? Yes, she's pregnant. She's a small girl, JSS. And I have made her pregnant. And they say, but Dauda, how much resources do you command that you're going to be able to look after a child? So you know what you want to do? You know what we'll do for you? Go and bring your baby mama, who is still pregnant, to come and live with us. And she will work here 3 times a week so we can give her some money and it can help the child. This is very interesting and it will be very painful to the couple. Dauda goes on a frolic of his own to go and impregnate Patience. Patience is pregnant. Dauda is concerned. Dauda has such a good relationship with his boss, Cecilia Dapa, and her husband, that he's able to confide in them that I'm in trouble, I've impregnated somebody. And they said, oh, Dauda, don't worry. Go and bring her to come and work here. She'll work 3 times a week. So that's her. And then Mabna is the regular 18-year-old maid servant who lives permanently with them. But she comes 3 times a week. As she starts the work, though, and as she has the child now, she has stopped with this man, Dauda. Patience and Dauda have stopped. Patience is now dating Benji Bensoa. He's the one that Patience is dating now. I don't know whether Benji knows that Patience's child is by Dauda, who is also working in the same place as.
So that was the explanation that was given by my senior colleague, Paula Domotry. So in that, he said, Madame Cecilia Abena Dapa told him. So that is his narrative, that Madame Cecilia Abena Dapa told him. So it is based on information that he had. That's why he said what he did. There are 3 schools of thought here. Number 1, Mr. Domotry may be acting on his own as a journalist who is just interested in informing and educating the public. So he went to seek further clarity, as we do in our work, audi autorem patem, to ask Madame Cecilia Dapa, what is your side of the story? And he's been very consistent since the matter broke, telling the side of Madame Cecilia Abena Dapa's story. That's 1. 2, is Madame Cecilia Dapa herself, you know, giving the president's response to him. Please put Madame Dapa's picture up for me. Is Madame Cecilia Dapa herself, did she choose Mr. Paula Domotry to speak on his behalf, or on her behalf, sorry? Did Madame Cecilia Abena Dapa choose, Paula Domotry to speak on her behalf? That's the second leg of the conversation. Number 3, is Mr. Paula Domotry doing this because, first of all, he's an appointee of the government. He has not denied that. He's a board chairman of the Ghana Airport Company, right? He is also told us publicly that he's an apologist of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. He loves him. So is he doing this to save the face of the government, as it were, because the people are not too excited that the cabinet minister could keep that much money at home when, in fact, we had been told that the banking sector had been cleaned up and people could go and have confidence and keep their monies in there and all of that? These are the 3 schools of thought that come. But from the narrative that Madame shared, Mr. Paula Domotry shared, there are questions that must be asked. The first question is that Madame Cecilia Abena Dapa engaged the services of a house girl or a housemaid who was in JSS at the time. And JSS is part of our basic school. Please put the minister's picture out there for me. JSS is part of the basic school structure. So if somebody is in JSS, it's obvious that the person will be less than 18. Way, way less than 18. Because there are even people who get into secondary school who are way less than 18. So that's the conversation. Now, did Madame and her husband know that they were engaging somebody who was under 18 at the time? Because if you are in JHS, you are under 18. Unless in this particular instance, the person was not a minor at the time that the person was engaged. Number 2, so this government tells us about education and that we have to educate our people and free SHS and all of that. Was Madame interested in trying to get the lady into free SHS and TVET and all that education? That's the other one. Remember that Madame had also acted as the gender minister when Adwoa Safo started playing her old calypso and panlogo with the government. She wants to run again, by the way. And that can only happen in Ghana, you don't know. Well, but at the time that she was acting as gender minister, was this minor still in her house serving as a housemaid? That's the third question. The fourth question that comes to mind is that, so according to Mr. Paul Adomotri and what Madame Cecilia Abena-Dapaah told, him, the Madame and her husband were aware that somebody in JHS had had sexual carnal knowledge, okay, with somebody who is a full adult and had actually gotten pregnant. And the matter was not taken up by WAJU, was not taken up by Child Rights International because it was not made public. Then we asked that bring the JSS girl home and let's take care of the JSS girl, employ the JSS girl as a housemaid. Is that the case? Is that what happened? Now, the fifth question that comes to mind is, these are house girls that Madame didn't personally know. Now, Madame was a cabinet minister. So Madame would have been exposed to a lot of state secrets that is not previewed to the general public. In journalism, we call it D notices. Now, some of these things would have been state secrets that only cabinet members would have known about. What kind of security sweeping or vetting was done on these girls before they got into the house of Madame Cecilia Abena-Dapaah, who is a cabinet minister, was a cabinet minister at the time? That's the fifth question. What kind of security sweeping or vetting was done of them or on them before they were engaged by Madame in her home? And can you imagine, we are all focusing on the money, the money, the money, the money, the money. We are focusing on the money. Can you imagine the types of phone calls that the girls may have eavesdropped on? Because if they are qualified enough to take $1 million from the home, as has been alleged, if they are qualified so to do, that means that they might have heard a lot of things that they might have told other people. And I'm particularly worried about it. So all of this is happening. And we have left the communication to the party communicators to do. But Madame is a government official. The lands and natural resources matter is a public matter, right? Jato and the issues, Eslaoswe Kufu issue is a public matter. In the past, my good friend Mr. Pon Krumah would have organized press conferences, or maybe Eugene would have called the presidential press call and explained to us, giving us a clarity on what the government's position is. The party itself would have held a press conference and told us what the official position of the party is. As it stands now, we don't have an official position of the presidency or the government. We don't have an official position of the party as well. It raises questions as to why we are not being spoken to. And this morning, I just came to ask the questions. But you know one other question that I want to ask away from this one? There's a question about President Akufo-Addo's mulling the idea of University of Ghana. Sisters, your school, Janet, your school, right? The president says he has an idea. Listen to him.
This inevitably beget memories. And for me, the most poignant of those memories is the inestimable work Dr. J.B. Danquah did to mobilize the Ghanaian people to insist on the building of this university. It was the inspired visionary leadership of this great scholar and nationalist, who was described in his lifetime as the doyen of Gold Coast politics, that following the setting up of the Elliott Commission, tasked by the colonial government to inquire into the possibility of establishing a university in West Africa, enabled the Ghanaian people to reject the original decision of the British colonial government based on the majority recommendation of the Elliott Commission that a single university be established in Ibadan, in Nigeria, for the whole of the then British West Africa, and got it to agree through a series of passionate interventions in the then Legislative Council, and with the enthusiastic support of the farmers of Ghana, to the creation of a separate university for our country on the basis of his minority recommendation. How felicitous was that decision, and how greatly it has contributed to the growth of modern Ghana. It would be wholly appropriate and not at all far-fetched to describe Joseph Boatie Danquah as the founder of this university, a fact which on the 75th anniversary of its existence should be vividly recalled by all of us who have been and are the beneficiaries of his work. Indeed, In many other jurisdictions where there is less heat in their politics and more attachment to the facts of the historical record, it would not have been out of place to have had this university named after him. Who knows? One day it may well happen.
Bosu. I love how you love your family. I love how you love your family. You love your family, and I appreciate you for it. But as for this one, we beg you. As for this particular one, you have renamed plenty things. We beg you. As for this one, please, leave it the way it is. When you are able to build a university around Chebi, that area, you can name it after JB Dankwa. Nobody will come after you. But as for this one, our Legon, please, we beg you. Leave it the way it is. Because Legon has its own whatever it is. We beg you, Mr. President. As for this renaming ceremony, we beg you. Mr. President, what we can do is that we can, for example, make a suggestion to you. You see the National Cathedral, the way it is now. You can rename it, not the National Cathedral, say JB Dankwa Cathedral. It will be fine. We will not be angry with you.